For the first time, I have a haunted module. The Psychedelic Voltage Processor by SetonixSynth and Tidbit Audio. This is an 8 HP spastic chaotic attenuator or offset voltage. It's great for adding hints of randomness to your signal, disrupts your audio a little bit, and not to mention, it looks really cool. In this video, I'll do a quick rundown of how the Psychedelic Voltage Processor works. Then we'll look at a bunch of use cases for the module, followed by some music at the end. And let's get going. All right, let me show you how the Psychedelic Voltage Processor works. So basically, you patch your signal in, or you have the internal signal, which is just an attenuator, and the voltage is run through all these randomly fluctuating LEDs, and the output of those LEDs is coming out the output. And these outputs all cascade down. So the input of one goes through the LEDs, out one, then this output is routed to this input, which goes through and all the way through, and you could break it by patching into the inputs. So we could see the lights go off when I plug in the first one, but we can see it's actually broken up into 4 sections of LEDs. So the first input is this section, then 2, 3, 4. So let's patch this first output into our oscilloscope, and let's patch that into this reverb here, which I have just dry going into our output. We can see we're getting some actual eerie sounds coming from those LEDs. You can see in the oscilloscope, when I turn this down, we can see this attenuator is just applying a constant voltage, and the LEDs are doing the rest. And it's really small wavers from our base, so we are just getting some randomness that is just a little off from what our input is. We'll see if I go to the second output, the first one is cascading down and we get more of those eerie sounds and more randomness. Same with 3. And then 4 we get the most. And it's just, I love these eerie haunted seagull sounds. So now let's see how this CV affects other things and how it mangles incoming CV and how that sounds. So now I have the Psychedelic Voltage Processor plugged into maths as an attenuator, and that is going into the volt per octave tuning of my Oxy Choral, which is playing this. Now the Psychedelic Voltage Processor is not doing anything yet. And I would have it up, but it is forming an offset then, so I'm going to keep it down because it still does do its thing, it's just doing it at 0 volts. So if I turn this up, so this is full Psychedelic Voltage Processor in the volt per octave, not as exciting, but if I go really subtle, we get that wow and flutter sort of sound, which I think is awesome. And let's try the second output. We get more. And let's just jump to the fourth. And that is it doing some pitch wobbling. And now I have choral with the resonator mode going into the Psychedelic Voltage Processor. And we can see that the Psychedelic Voltage Processor, it's still doing its LED thing with the attenuator all the way down. So it's a way to kind of work in your input. We can see we get some nice degradation to our signal as opposed to this. Now let's see the next output. see even more degradation with this third one, that we're losing a lot of our audio signal. And even more with the last one. But we had some reverb in here. Let's go back to the second one. Per se, I don't want that much degradation in my signal, but I still want some. What I could do with this reverb is do the reflect send into the voltage processor and send that back into the return. So it kind of acts like a second input here for the feedback. So we only have it on our wet signal we could hear. All right, let's try some more things. Like taking a closer look at what is actually happening when running a sound source or an oscillator through the Psychedelic Voltage Processor. Right now I have a triangle wave coming from maths. So we could see we're just getting some wobbling around and some quick vertical wobbles, giving us some upper harmonics or those weird, eerie tones. And it's just from the random voltage fluctuations. We could see how it changes up its intensity. And this is just only using the first output. Now let's look at the next output. We're getting much more wobbling. Even more, and it's buzzing now. And you notice I'm using maths here as the oscillator, so it is unipolar. So I'm going to show you something else in just a second here. And here's the fourth output. Really buzzy, really distorted and gritty. But maths is not a normal oscillator. This is oscillating unipolar. So if I go to a bipolar oscillator or offsetting this oscillator, which I have set up in the sum here, we could see it's doing a half wave rectification of our triangle wave. And the half rectification by default is giving us clipping, so it's giving us some drive. Second. Third. And the last. And that is the Psychedelic Voltage Processor with an oscillator source, taking a closer look at that. Now let's check out running a volt per octave sequence through the Psychedelic Voltage Processor and see how that works. Okay, so with volt per octave, it doesn't really work the best because you need to attenuate this signal without attenuating your bass signal. So stick with that first method I did earlier. Also, on the Psychedelic Voltage Processor, on the back of it, we have 4 trimmers for each of the 4 outputs. And we could kind of play with those trimmers. Right now I'm on output 1, and we could play with it, and this is our output volume for that trimmer. So I go all the way down, and it's not going to do much at all. And I turn it up, and we can see it's only going about halfway, as opposed to all the way up to 10 volts. So I'm going to turn this to about 50%, and I'm going to turn this, and as we turn it up, we could get more glitchiness. And this gets more exciting when we jump down outputs and we kind of build those up. So I go to the 4th one here, And let's see, I can make it really glitchy and it'll kind of jump in and out with some gate-like jumps. So we could get some nice adjustments and fine-tuning here for what you want to use this for and how you want the sounds to sound with these trimmers on the back. And this gets more exciting when you feedback patch. So I'm going to take output 3 and go into input 1. And now we again play around with these trimmers. And we're getting some crazy glitchy gates at the right levels. And then let's say feedback into the same exact channel. Let's do it with 1, so it has more time to build up. So we can see playing with the level of 1 is adjusting our glitchiness. And we can play with it more as it goes down the line. And that's how you could get some kind of random gates from the Psychedelic Voltage Processor, feedback patching, and the back trim pots. And now let's check out an envelope from Maths going through the Psychedelic Voltage Processor and into a VCA off screen. Now, without the envelope applied, it's still that resonator riff from before. And now let's apply some envelopes to the VCA. So we could see it's getting it nice and wobbly in its shape, giving it a bit more organic nature. Let's jump to the 4th and see how much that jumps around. So we could see we get much more drastic jumps vertically of the volume going down and then coming up a little bit, going down more, etc. Now what would also happen if we turn this into an LFO and we offset it and we make it a little bit faster. Now let's check out some music I put together using every instrument in the track, using the Psychedelic Voltage Processor in some way. Enjoy!